By the time you finish watching this video, the price of urea will be higher than when you started. That is not hyperbole. The data is showing it right now in May of 2026. The global urea market has gone from $450 per ton in late February to over $700 per ton by mid-March. That is a 50% increase in under 3 weeks. Some retail spot markets in the United States are now reporting prices above $800 per ton. Urea is not just fertilizer. It is the chemical backbone of modern food production, diesel trucking, livestock feed, industrial chemicals, pharmaceuticals. When urea spikes, everything connected to it spikes. Not next year, not next quarter, within weeks. The Strait of Hormuz crisis has shut down roughly 35% of the world's urea exports overnight. China has imposed export restrictions because it depends on Middle Eastern sulfur. India lost 800,000 tons of monthly production in a single month. The American Farm Bureau Federation has called the current situation, in their own words, catastrophic. So I am going to do something I rarely do on this channel. I'm going to give you a list, 9 specific items you should hoard, not stockpile, hoard. Stockpiling implies you have time. You do not, because the window where they are still affordable is measured in weeks, not months. Before we go deeper, the complete documentation behind every recommendation in this video is available in the description below. The survival research goes deep on each of the 9 items I'm about to walk through, and 7 more I cannot fit into a single video. 7 days money-back guarantee, link in the description. Now back to the analysis. What is changing right now is that there are no strategic reserves for fertilizer, none. Unlike oil, where the United States holds roughly 700 million barrels in reserve, there is nothing for fertilizer. When disruptions hit, prices respond immediately. Illinois corn farmers are projected to spend roughly $229 per acre on fertilizer in 2026. That is up from $160 2 years ago. You do not need to be a farmer for this to matter. You eat, you drive. You buy things made with industrial chemicals. Urea sits underneath all 3. There is one more thing you need to understand before I give you the list. The fertilizer industry runs on what is called just-in-time delivery. There are no warehouses full of urea sitting in reserve. There's only the truck arriving on Tuesday with what farmers ordered last September. A farmer who cannot fertilize in May has already lost his season by June. And every farmer who loses his season this year will not have the cash to plant fully next year. The shortage compounds. Before I give you the list, I want to tell you a quick story about the kind of person who handles this well and the kind of person who does not. The list itself is the easy part. The harder part is the discipline to act on it now, before the items on it are either rationed or unaffordable. Eleanor is 67, lives in Sarasota, Florida, retired school teacher, 38 years in the classroom. She works part-time at the public library now. Her husband Frank passed in 2019. 4 kids, 11 grandchildren. Eleanor has lived through at least 5 major hurricanes in Sarasota. Andrew, Charlie, Wilma, Irma, Ian. She has, in her own words, never panicked once. Every August, she takes inventory. She fills jugs. She tests the generator Frank bought in 2004. She rotates her stored food. She makes sure her medications are covered for 30 days. Her grown children think she is, quote, charming about it. 2 years ago, her daughter, who lives in Tampa, gave her the documentation as a gift. Eleanor read it cover to cover the same week. Her commentary, when her daughter asked, was that 90% of what was in the document was what her own mother had taught her growing up in rural Georgia in the 1960s. The other 10% was the technical updates, modern water filtration, battery storage that wasn't possible when she was young, communication redundancy, things that fit alongside the basics, not instead of them. Last September, Hurricane Idalia. Eleanor's neighbors, a couple in their 30s, were at Home Depot at 9 p.m. the night before, fighting over the last battery-operated lanterns. Eleanor was at home. The next morning, she made coffee for the couple from down the street whose power had gone out. Her power was also out. Her coffee maker was running on the small inverter Frank had set up in 2010. The complete documentation costs less than what Eleanor's neighbor spent on the wrong supplies the night before the storm. 7 days money-back guarantee. Link in the description. When the grid fails, knowledge doesn't. Back to the list. The reason I tell you about Eleanor is that she is the proof this works. Not marketing, not a promise. Proof. 5 hurricanes. 47 years of practice. One quiet morning making coffee for neighbors who did not prepare. That is the bar. Quick reminder before we get into the 9 items. Everything I am about to walk through, the specific brands, the storage protocols, the dosages, the rotation schedules, the substitution charts, all of it is documented in detail in the survival research material linked below. 1 access, 7 days money back guarantee. The link is in the description. Now to the list itself. Number 1, diesel exhaust fluid, sometimes sold as DEF or AdBlue depending on the brand. Every diesel vehicle manufactured for sale in the United States since 2010 requires this fluid to operate. The fluid is roughly 32% urea by weight, mixed with deionized water. It is sprayed into the exhaust to reduce nitrogen oxide emissions. Without it, the truck does not run. Modern diesel engines have a sensor that monitors the fluid level. When it gets low, the engine derates. When it runs out, the engine refuses to start. There is no manual override. This was the same crisis that hit Australia and South Korea in 2021 when China cut its urea exports. Within 4 weeks, Australia was warning that tens of thousands of trucks could be pulled off the road. The same dynamic is now playing out globally. By 3 to 6 cases, not one, the shelf life on a sealed jug is approximately 2 years, stored in a cool place out of direct sunlight. Your cost today is roughly $12 per 2.5 gallon jug. By Christmas, that may be $25 per jug if it is available at all. Number 2, long-term storage food staples, specifically rice, beans, oats, hard winter wheat, and dried corn. The connection to urea is direct. Without nitrogen fertilizer, yields per acre fall by roughly 40 to 50% in the first season. American farmers cannot adjust mid-season. Whatever they planted with cheap fertilizer bought in the fall is what they harvest. The food shortage shows up in your supermarket roughly 12 to 18 months later. You want 50-pound bags, white rice, hard red winter wheat berries, pinto beans, black beans, oat groats, sealed in food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers. These store for 25 to 30 years. The cost today, before the harvest crisis hits, is roughly 40 cents per serving. After the crisis, $2 to $3 per serving and rising. Number 3, heirloom non-hybrid seeds. This one is overlooked even by experienced preppers. Hybrid seeds, the kind sold at the average garden center, do not breed true in the second generation. You cannot save the seeds and plant them next year and get the same result. You become permanently dependent on the seed company. Heirloom seeds are different, open-pollinated. You save them, plant them next year. Same vegetable. This is how every farmer on Earth operated for 10,000 years before the 1970s. With urea fertilizer expensive or unavailable, heirloom seeds matter even more. They evolved with lower nitrogen requirements. They produce in conditions where modern hybrids will fail. A small investment in heirloom tomatoes, beans, corn, squash, and root vegetables is the difference between depending on the supply chain and being independent of it. Look for varieties that have been grown in your region for at least 50 years. Cherokee purple tomatoes, Kalema beans, glass gem corn for your zone, open-pollinated, non-genetically modified, from a real seed company that lists the seed lineage. Number 4, organic and slow-release fertilizer alternatives. This is what farmers have used for 10,000 years. It still works. The reason most modern agriculture stopped using it is because urea was cheap. When urea is no longer cheap, you go back to what worked. The 4 to stockpile in order of priority are composted livestock manure, fish emulsion concentrate, kelp meal, and bone meal. Each of these provides slow-release nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium without depending on the urea supply chain. Composted chicken manure pellets are widely available right now in 50-pound bags for roughly $30. By next planting season, these will likely double or triple in price as commercial growers bid them up. If you have any access to a livestock farmer in your area, this is the time to make a relationship. A farmer with cattle has a fertilizer factory in his pasture. He has been giving the manure away because urea was cheaper. That is changing. Number 5, shelf-stable proteins, specifically canned meats, dried fish, freeze-dried eggs, and powdered milk. Here is the chain that almost no one explains. Urea makes nitrogen fertilizer. Nitrogen fertilizer grows the corn and soy that feeds livestock. When fertilizer doubles, livestock feed doubles. When livestock feed doubles, ranchers and dairy operators sell down their herds because they cannot afford to feed them. The herd liquidation creates a temporary glut of cheap meat for 6 to 12 months. Then the meat disappears because the herds are smaller, because no one has bred replacement animals. The shortage hits roughly 18 to 24 months after the fertilizer spike. Buy now, before the herd liquidation ends. Canned chicken, canned tuna, canned salmon, dehydrated freeze-dried eggs, and powdered whole milk. Look for low-sodium options. Verify the can lining is bisphenol A free if you can. Store cool, dry, dark. Number 6, salt. This is the one that gets dismissed the most and matters the most. Salt cannot be substituted. It is required for human survival, for food preservation in any system without refrigeration, as a livestock supplement. The United States imports roughly 25% of its salt. The supply chain is vulnerable in ways most people do not consider. During the 2021 panic, salt was in short supply for roughly 6 weeks in some regions. You want 3 types: plain table salt for daily use, pickling salt or canning salt for food preservation, curing salt with sodium nitrite for meat preservation. 25 pounds of each is a starting point for a household of 4. Properly stored, salt has an indefinite shelf life. Salt does not go bad, ever. The cost today is roughly $12 for a 50-pound bag of pickling salt. After the next supply scare, it will be $30. Number 7, diesel fuel and diesel fuel stabilizer. Diesel prices are currently within 20 cents of an all-time high in the United States. Multiple states are setting new records this month. The American Farm Bureau Federation has stated that relief is uncertain through all of 2026. You want to do 2 things. First, fill any storage tanks you have access to now. Second, treat the fuel with a stabilizer. Properly stabilized off-road diesel can store for 2 to 3 years without degradation. The 2 products that work are PRI for diesel, the standard biocide diesel stabilizer formulas. 1 ounce treats 16 gallons. The cost is roughly $50 for a 32-ounce bottle that treats 500 gallons of fuel. Without the stabilizer, your stored diesel grows microbes within 90 days and clogs every injector you put it through. For households without storage tanks, this still matters. Stabilized diesel in 5-gallon containers will run a generator or backup vehicle when grid fuel becomes unaffordable or rationed. The sealed metal jerry can is the right container. The plastic ones from the gas station are not rated for long-term storage. Spend the extra $15 per can. Number 8, hard currency in small denominations. This sounds out of place on a survival list. It is not. Every fertilizer crisis in modern history has produced regional cash inflation. The 2022 crisis in Sri Lanka produced a 40% food inflation rate within 6 months of the fertilizer cuts. The way this affects you in the United States is at the edges. When supply chains tighten, regional grocery stores sometimes prefer cash. Roadside farmers who lose access to credit card processing during outages prefer cash. People you meet during disruptions are more comfortable trading with cash than with apps. You want to mix 5s, 10s, and 20s primarily. A reasonable target for a household of 4 is $2,000 to $3,000 in physical bills, stored in a fire safe in the home, and in a smaller amount stored separately, not under the mattress, not in a single envelope. Distributed. Number 9, manual gardening and hand tools. This is the category that ties everything else together. Heirloom seeds without a tiller, a shovel, a hoe, and a sharpening file is just a packet on a shelf. The manual tools are what allow you to use the seeds, plant the food, harvest it, and prepare next year's plot. The list is short. A flat shovel and a round point shovel, a garden hoe, a scuffle hoe for weeding, a broad fork for opening soil without a tractor, a sharpening file for keeping edges, a wheelbarrow, pruning shears, a scythe if you have any acreage. By quality, the $50 shovel from a real hardware store will outlast the $15 shovel from a big box. American-made or German-made tools from companies like Council Tool, Bully Tools, and Fiskars are reasonable starting points. They will be expensive in 2 years. They will not be made at all in 5 years if these companies face the same input cost crisis. One detail almost everyone misses on this category. The tool is only as good as its handle. Hickory is the standard for shovels and axes because it absorbs shock without splitting. Replacement handles are cheap right now, $10 each. Buy 2 spares for every tool you depend on. The handle breaks before the head ever does. 3 more items I could not fit into this video. They are pinned in the top comment below the description. The first is the one item that is impossible to substitute, and almost no one is buying right now. The second is what to buy if you live in an apartment and cannot store 50-pound bags of anything. The third is the one common preparedness purchase that is actually wrong for this specific crisis. Now let me close with the part that nobody else seems willing to say plainly. The urea crisis is not a future event. It started in late February of this year. It is, right now in May of 2026, in week 10. Industry analysts, including StoneX and Fitch ratings, expect the elevated input cost environment to persist through the 2027 planting season. That is 20 more months of upward pressure on every category I just walked through. You have a window. The window is now. The cost of acting today is a fraction of the cost of acting in November. Most people will hear this and do nothing. They will tell themselves it is alarmist, that the government will handle it, that their neighborhood will not be affected. Then in 6 months, when their grocery bill is 40% higher and the part for their truck is on back order, they will say nobody warned them. Somebody warned them. They decided not to act. What I want you to take away is not panic. Panic is what produces empty Home Depot shelves at 9 p.m. the night before a storm. Panic produces the wrong purchases at the worst prices. What I want you to take away is the timeline and the list, and the fact that the people who handle this well are the people who already started. If this video helped you think more clearly about what to do, subscribe to the channel. We publish 2 to 3 new analyses per week, all anchored in verifiable data, all focused on what you can actually do with the information. The next video covers the regional supply maps, which states will see the price spike first, and which staples to buy locally before trucking slows. It posts Wednesday. Until then, take the list seriously. Start with one item this weekend. D, E, F if you drive a diesel. Heirloom seeds if you have any soil at all, salt if you have neither. The people who handle this well are not the people who are scared. They are the people who already started. When the grid fails, knowledge doesn't.